Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome to today's TryThisAt.Work session. We are on our last of our three-part series around apps, and today I'm going to be walking you through apps for management. So just a brief note that this is the last event, at least for 2020. I think all of us are excited to see 2020 go. Hopefully 2021 will be a better year. We're going to have a great schedule that we're going to be coming out with at the very beginning of the year. So just, keep your eye out on the TryThisAt.Work site. And then also, for those of you that are customers, we'll send you the email notifications as well, just so you're aware of the upcoming schedule. So stay tuned on that. Super exciting stuff that's coming in the beginning of the year. And of course, we want to highlight the latest and greatest and show you all the cool stuff. I'm actually solo today, so you all are just getting me. Again, those of you who don't know me, my name is Kelly Cleland. I am a customer success manager with Microsoft, and I am a TryThisAt.Work leader. Before we get started and get into the content, just a few housekeeping items that I must cover. So this is a Microsoft Teams live event. This is a public event, so we in no way, shape, or form are we capturing any form of registration data or data on the back end. Just if you are happening to authenticate through 365, just know we may have your email address, but again, we're not going to use it. We're not going to distribute it if that does come through on the back end in the report. So just know your privacy is of the utmost importance to us, and we like to remain compliant with all rules and regulations. So with that, I say we go ahead and get started with today's event. And then please do feel free to submit questions throughout the event. I'll probably just breeze through the content and look for your questions at the end, just because, again, I'm sort of on my own today, so I'm just going to stay focused. But I will take a look at the very end and try to answer as many of them as I can. All right, so this one, again, how we're going to approach this session is, again, a little different than how we've approached the last two. So when we were thinking about this session specifically for management, it really, when we were thinking about it and when I was thinking about it, it's really when we started to think about it, it's kind of like, you don't necessarily, you really think about the qualities of a great leader first. You're not necessarily thinking about the technology first. You're thinking about, well, what does make a great leader? And then what are those, what are those resources that you have access to that really help you surface those qualities and to help you create a rich, engaging connection with your employees? So that's really going to be the focus of today's session, is really kind of understanding what are some of the options available to you. And 5 qualities is by no means a list of all of them. These were just 5, even as myself and as an employee, and if I was a great leader, things that I would think about. I am a leader in my organization, but if I was, management and an executive, these are things that obviously, as I'm thinking about it from an employee perspective, that, qualities that a great leader should have. So the 5 qualities that we're going to kind of focus on for today and really talk about from a team's perspective is a leader that listens genuinely and is connected and engaged, one who adapts to the team, gives credit where it's due, right? That's really important when you're talking about retaining talent. Invests in the success of the team, right? Your team's successful, you're successful, and also models desired behaviors. So those are sort of the 5 qualities that we're going to focus on, and I'm going to go through them here one at a time. All right, so the first one, listens genuinely and is connected and engaged. So when I thought about this one, it's, leaders are really I think the most effective leaders are the servant leaders. They're the individuals that listen to their people, right? They hired these smart people for a reason. And they need, that comes with trust and transparency. And it really comes from being a very actively engaged, empathetic leader who genuinely listens to the individuals and, makes sure that they're deeply engaged with their people. So as I kind of thought about this one, I really thought about, focusing on the individual, making sure that there's a connection that's created and that you are creating time to listen to those individuals as your employees. So a couple things just sort of kind of came up around this one. And we have, again, this is going to be a little bit similar, and you might even see some apps that are repeated from the first line session. But we have some Power App templates, and we also have some third-party apps that are in the Microsoft Teams app catalog. But really, when thinking about this one, again, it's not an all-inclusive list. But really, when thinking about this one, it's, making sure that an employee feels like they're being heard and that you care about how they feel about their work week or how happy they are at work or things that can be better, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're listening genuinely and you're connecting with your employees, it's going to make for a better working environment. You're going to retain that talent. You're going to accomplish goals more quickly. And it's truly going to be, right? We spend a lot of time with our peers at work in our lifetime. And I think it's important to have a very connected team. So I think using some of the tools, for example, like Reflect, so that's a template that's actually out there. So it's a bot that essentially that you can set up that'll actually push out and ask your employees, how do they feel? Of course, you can customize that however you want, but it's just a quick pulse, a generally understanding like, how is your team feeling right now? Maybe it's a very busy time of year. Again, from a retail perspective, this is peak time right now. So how is the team feeling? And then that can also sort of spin up a conversation when you do get the chance to meet with your team, maybe in your weekly sync. Tiny Pulse is, again, it's another way to get feedback, but this, I would say it's more on a score based, and then you're elaborating on the answer, so it's giving you a little more information. So it kind of just depends on how much time you actually, how much time you want to give them to submit that feedback. And then, of course, you can't really see it probably very well on the slide, but there's an answer anonymously. So folks can feel comfortable with submitting their feedback. But honestly, if you're a great leader and you're an honest leader, and one where your employees know that they can submit their honest feedback and there not to be any repercussions. I mean, clearly if somebody's submitting something horrible, there'll be repercussions to that. But for sharing honest feedback in terms of, hey, I think this has been a tough week. Sales have been really slow. We're worried about, what this means with end of the year bonuses, something like that. I think when there are good leaders in place, they're actually not even afraid to share that feedback with their name attached to it. But just know there's anonymous options. Polly's another great one, depending on just how detailed you want to get with sort of gauging where individuals are at and how they're feeling across the business. And you can also use, of course, Microsoft Forms as well. But again, these are just some ideas. Another thing that I think is important, listening genuinely really comes down to those one-to-one meetings that you have with your employees. Those one-to-one meetings are extremely important. And I can't tell you enough. Some organizations do this really well. They have it mandated where the managers need to have a weekly sync with their employees. They want them to be connected to their employees. They want a very strong relationship, throughout the management chain. But some organizations struggle with this a little bit. Well, we don't want this to be difficult on the manager, right? There's tools that can sort of help bridge the gap of things that you need to do or to follow up. For example, a reminder, hey, I would actually say verbally, hey, I need to schedule a one-on-one with Susie for, tomorrow at, or next week at 10 o'clock. Remind me tomorrow at noon to schedule that, something along those lines. You're also going to see another bot actually that'll do the scheduling for you, but I'll get to that in a minute. In addition to that, when you're talking about being connected to your people, right, being connected to them also recognizes that they are a person outside of work. So celebrating their accomplishments, their birthdays, having some type of space, like we have a water cooler space inside of our team that we have set up. And it's really for those celebrations, those happy birthdays, the anniversaries. We just got a new puppy, and I posted a picture of our new little Frenchie Beau. It's a great way to connect on a personal level. And again, that really deepens your relationship from a manager-employee perspective. All right, so I think we've kind of hashed that one out. Know that there's a lot of other apps and opportunities to truly help you listen and be connected and engaged with your employees. This was just a selection that I thought was just a good way to show a few of them and help you understand how I'm connecting those dots and leveraging the technology to really help with drive those connections. So adapts to the team is another one. And, this one probably might have been confusing initially when looking at it, like adapting to the team. Like, I'm the leader, I'm generally the one that's setting the tone and as the manager. And, I do agree with that to a certain extent. But again, I think the best leaders are the servant leaders. They're the ones that, are truly invested in their team and, yes, everyone shares common goals, but, I think everybody works differently and teams together work differently. I think it's very important that a leader adapts to the team, especially if they're potentially new coming into a team and they're already functioning in a certain way. You don't want to uh, you potentially don't want to break up a good thing unless you know that improvements can be made. So I think it's important to kind of listen to your employees and find ways to make sure that their ideas are elevated up, and also that there's also transparency across what the team is actually doing and how everyone's contributing. So with that, that's kind of, here are some on this slide are actually just some ideas that promote that. So employee ideas and great ideas, again, these are other app templates that are available out there. Again, really easy. If you just search for Microsoft app templates, these will pop up. There's actually a huge listing of them. Very easy to others, step-by-step instructions for deploying these. But I thought these were two really great examples for adapting to your team. Right, your employees live and breathe the day to day, and they know the business really well. And I think it's important that their ideas are surfaced and heard. Not only when you're actually in meetings, but sometimes the best ideas happen. Like, I happen to get crazy ideas. Sometimes when I work late, my best ideas will just pop up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And to be able to jot those ideas out down and get them out there, because sometimes I just get so busy that I lose it and then I don't think about it for another few weeks. And I'm like, oh, geez, I had this great idea. Now I feel like I'm behind the ball on it. So I think having mechanism for collecting the employee feedback and ideas around how the business can be improved, potentially, a lot of employees, I think, especially with technologies today's, are doing amazing things with innovation, especially when you actually talk about power apps. So I can't really talk about details in terms of specifics around customers, but I've heard some amazing, just an individual that wasn't even in IT that saw the problem within their department and has saved the company, hundreds of thousands of dollars, or has saved everyone, 15 minutes out of their day by essentially creating this power app and these flows, and have just significantly impacted the business. And that's why it's important, I think, to make sure that you are giving your employees the space to be able to, be innovative and creative and share the ideas with you. Because again, at the end, it's just going to connect you better as a team, and it's going to allow you to reach your goals, I think, a lot more quickly. So again, sort of great ideas is a collection of everyone's ideas, or you could just do, a push to a certain channel, or it's just kind of a different take on how you're submitting them. The soapbox is actually one where it's around essentially surfacing up, essentially ideas for, hey, these are things we can do, who agrees with this. It's essentially giving you a voice in a different way, and items that can actually turn into actual projects. So again, it's just a sort of different platform, and it's a third-party app versus the app template, but it's just another method, again, for different ways that you can work with the team and hear their feedback and adapt to them. And then the last thing is, right, not trying to make it complicated. I think when you have a great, very productive team and you have ideas and you want to meet with them, maybe a great idea sort of popped up, in the great ideas app, and you're like, gosh, man, that was a great idea that Tim had. I really want to have a meeting with him. So I popped this one in here, even though it could potentially fit somewhere else. But the secretary bot, I think, is a great example of it's kind of annoying to find time across people. And again, your employees' time is just as important as your time. So, no one's time is more important than another. So I think actually, hey, I'm going to just leverage a secretary bot instead of looking at calendars and kind of, wasting some of my productive time. I'm just going to let the secretary bot find some time for us to talk about this idea and potentially what we can do from a next step perspective to spin it into a project. So that's just something, again, anywhere where you can find any type of automation in your day from a manager perspective, it allows you to focus back on your employees and the goals that you have holistically. So, highly encourage anywhere where you're saving time. All right, so moving on, this one I can honestly say nowadays is one of the most important ones, essentially giving praise or credit where it's due. Bonusly and Hey Taco, I think even incentives I covered during the last first line worker session. But these are just fantastic ways, especially not only could you potentially leverage, so for example, on Lucky Draw, right? So this is a new one that's out there. In this case, it's kind of like, hey, I'm just going to do some prizes for the team. I'm going to push that out there. And it's free coffee day is kind of the example that's there. So it's not necessarily giving credit, but it's kind of like, hey, I have a great team. You know what? I want to give out some free coffees. And then, hey, taco is kind of right. It's essentially you're getting tacos from your peers that essentially build up over time. And then with those tacos, potentially they get some type of reward after they have so many tacos. Hey Taco is really popular again with our customers. It seems like everyone loves Hey Taco. And then, of course, bonusly, kind of similar concept, except you're building up points. And, again, your teammates can continue to add on to the bonus, just kind of just like Hey Taco. But again, instead of tacos, it's points, kind of same thing. And then again, there's sort of rewards that are tied to that as well. And again, it's not like these things have to be big. They can be small things, like a free coffee is a big deal. Most people love free coffee. They're like, oh my gosh, I got a free coffee. This is amazing. I don't think it takes a lot. In addition to that, right, and gamifying and sort of, trying to find ways to, just reinforce the good behaviors and your team working well together and individual performance. Some people actually really like gamification, and they actually like win a leaderboard and they want to try to get to the top. And I myself am guilty of that. I completely did that this year on something that we had internally at Microsoft. Like when you have a leaderboard and your name is at the top spot and you're like, I need to keep it there. I need to do more. It's kind of like this incentive, especially when there's some really great prizes attached to that. So again, another app template that's out there is the incentives app. I absolutely love this one. Again, it's also customizable in terms of things that you're asking your team to do. Maybe you're trying to drive, again, maybe it's deeper connections across the team, and maybe you're trying to get them to work outside of the box or with other people that they typically don't. So you can, right, it doesn't even necessarily have to be like, a lot of times we use the incentives app as customer success managers to reinforce adoption behaviors. But see, you can use incentives app really for anything, because even if you want to say like, hey, I want individuals to meet and work with individuals they have not before, you have to complete 5 different things and work in 5 different groups, and you're incentivizing them and encouraging those behaviors and those cross-team relationships. So really, again, you can sort of customize all of these to a certain extent, really sort of adapting for your team needs and really what motivates individuals. I think that's important that you also survey your team on what motivates them. But peer-to-peer is always a great thing. All right, so moving on. someone who a manager that invests in the success of the teams, it seems like this would be a no-brainer. But I think that when we're talking about this, it's you having a certain level as a manager of that transparency, that willingness to say, hey, I see what you're doing. This was our goal that we lined out. I see what you're doing. I see how, you team members, I see how you're engaging to reach this goal. I see how your individual performance, I see your individual performance against the goals. And I think that that's really when I'm talking about investing in the success of the teams, it's really around that. So there's another app template out there for goal tracker. So actually tracking individual goals, right? And a lot of times, like, think about it, us as individuals having to track our goals and do our performance reviews is so painful. Wouldn't it just be so great if that just naturally happened throughout the year, so we did not have to kind of wait, every 6 months or keep a running tab of the accomplishments that we've had over 6 months? Wouldn't it be great if that was just naturally captured in our day and we didn't have to worry about that when it becomes performance time? These are some of the things that I'm talking about, like, making it easier on the manager too, right? The managers actually had visibility into the performance of their team, both as a team and individuals throughout the entire year. I mean, just think about that. It's not someone feeding you information about, what you've been doing for the past 6 months or 12 months. In addition to that, so that's Goal Tracker. Again, that's an app template. Team Flex is something similar, but it's a third-party app. And it sort of ties in a lot of different things, actually. So from a manager view, I kind of liked this one because it actually, like if there's individual tasks that are assigned to users, so maybe you have certain stretch goals for them or something, you can actually tie all of that into this platform specifically. And it also does recognition, feedback. It ties in the one-on-ones, even notes around, notes around that employee that you want to keep personally. That also helps you as a manager, maybe, end of the year rewards discussion. You have all of that in one place, and it's easy now for you to go back and to be able to go down your team members and know all of the accomplishments from your team throughout that entire year at an individual level. Even from investing in the success of the team, I think a lot of that is also transparency across your team and what's being worked on. Even within my team, as I have, all of us customer success managers, we all have different customers, but we all share the same goal. So at the end of the day, it's important that we have transparency sort of across the business, right? And we're not sharing any type of level of details to an extent, but it's about, hey, what's working well? What are you working on? What types of things, like what are some of the challenges that you're running into? And those are all things that we share and make us better as a team, and things that we talk about with our manager. And I think having our goals and having the visibility in terms of the things that we're doing. So that's this. I'm not exactly sure how to say this. I'm going to be totally honest. So I'm going to say it's Stretty. If I'm mispronouncing this, again, I'm not endorsing any of these apps, but if I'm mispronouncing that, I'm so sorry. But what I liked about this one is it basically breaks down the team goals, and just gives you an all-up view across the team, essentially, of the performance at any point in time. And granted, some of this, right, like, we've got pretty robust reporting sitting on our back end being Microsoft, but from this standpoint, what I think is good about this is that it just, not a lot of teams actually have access to that information. So what I think is fantastic about Stretty is that it's actually giving, some detail, and it's breaking down goals, and it's almost creating tasks assigned to those goals that the team is accomplishing together, or individuals are accomplishing against those goals, depending on what it is. And that's why I like that, because again, it's transparency, and it's that transparency across the team and how you're all driving together towards the success. So I think that is why that one's cool. And then this last one, so speaking, invest in the success of the team, I kind of really having Screen Cloud, you can't see this very well, but the reason why I kind of liked this one is because this is essentially it's a customizable dashboard that you can create inside of Teams. And basically what it does is it will allow you to essentially call up what's important, say for the week or for the day. So it's just kind of a one screen snapshot that gives your team members essentially what it just gives them a quick view of everything that they need to focus on, right? Because in a lot of cases, right, none of us really have time to do daily stand-ups. We know that doesn't even happen in the first line space necessarily. So what I liked about Screen Cloud is just the fact that it was a very visual snapshot that you can quickly digest, that's easy for everyone to understand. So again, and I think that's important. Investing in success of team, having quick call outs, I think, and especially visual call outs, I think are always nice for everyone. All right, so on this, I gotta speed up here. I'm running short on time. Okay, so models desired behavior. This is sort of the last one. So every time I hear a great leader speak, the thing that jumps out at me is they talk about certain behaviors or things that they do. Number one, they always remember people and they make it a point to remember names and they make it a point to remember personal details. They make connections. They're always expanding their network. They take breaks and they also they have great mentors and coaches. And that's what this entire slide is here, is all around that. I mean, consistently articles and videos, and I mean, those are consistent things from a management perspective. So, and that not only as a manager, right, those are sort of, I guess, the best practices to follow to be an ideal manager or leader in an organization. But really, you should also be modeling what you want your employees to do. So just a few things that I included here because I need to speed up a little bit. I don't know if we're going to have time for Q&A. But the icebreaker bot. So this is actually used by quite a few of my customers, even personally. So the icebreaker bot is a fantastic way in order to make connections across teams. Essentially what it does is it links up individuals that you like. So for example, icebreaker bot would send me and say, hey, we found a match for you. Essentially it's pairing you, there's some criteria on the background in the back end with how it's pairing you, and it's going to create that match, and it's basically going to say, hey, propose a meetup, and you're going to have a little meeting, even if it's only 5 minutes, but you're going to get to meet somebody new. That's expanding your network, right? You're sort of going outside of the view that you have currently, and you're expanding that network. The breakthrough bot, what I liked about this, and I know there's like Headspace and stuff like that, so I'm not saying, don't use your Headspace, use Breakthrough. But Breakthrough is actually, it's similar to Headspace, kind of, if anybody's heard of that. It's literally a 2-minute sort of exercise. And it's very visual, like, so you actually interact with it on the screen. It literally is a 2-minute break to allow you to decompress and then to go back into work mode. So it gives your mind, if you're a little bit stressed, it gives your mind a break, and it's only 2 minutes. So it's very short, very effective. So just something, that I wanted to throw out there. The Metno, this is actually great. So it actually does, it helps you get to know people. I think especially when you're a new manager, you have a lot of people that you need to know who they are from a facial, like from who they actually are, like, looking at them physically, their names. So Metno actually will help you remember, right? This isn't just for managers, but actually helps you remember people. So, right, it'll pull down essentially the profile pictures, and it has their name, and it'll actually quiz you on, like, okay, do you remember who these individuals are? And it'll score you. So I think it's a really great way, if you have a hard time remembering people, names or faces or whatever the case may be. I think that that's a great solution. The coach bot, again, so, right, this is potentially coaching, right? So this coach bot will actually show you, it'll create notifications for like one-on-ones or retrospectives from individuals, like your employees that you're actually having your one-on-ones with. And it's going to help you actually do coaching with them. It gives you summaries essentially based off of, okay, your recent one-on-ones that are coming up. any retrospectives that you may have had. And it's calculating, it's like basically tabulating all that data in the back end. And it's just allowing you to essentially help you with your coaching of individuals. Again, I can see even beyond coaching, different ways that could be leveraged. Oh, I've got to speed up. It's 12:30. Okay, and then team goal. What I thought about this is just, again, it's another way to collect feedback. And the way that I was thinking about this, yes, there were surveys at the front for getting surveys for your team, right? Getting information from your team and ideas. This, I think, is in reverse. So getting feedback back to you, you're only going to be a better leader by essentially, getting feedback from your actual team. So something to keep in mind. All right, lastly, and I'm not going to beat this to death, you can sort of read these on screen here, but Power Automate template considerations. These are just a few that I just captured. Again, these are templates and they're super easy. So alert me when I mention in Microsoft Teams. Do you, right? A lot of managers, they're just like, oh, geez, I wish, I just had sort of an easy alert, like a phone notification to let me know when I'm mentioned in Teams. Making it a lot easier on for me from where I need to focus, following up on a message. There's a lot around shifts and auto approvals. So you can clearly see those here, but these were just some that, recommended kind of based off of, from a manager and employee perspective, things that may be beneficial just to make you a more productive leader. Okay, so with that, I'm 1 minute over. I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's been, a great sort of first half of the what we call the Try This at Work year. So again, just a friendly reminder, sometime in the beginning of January, we're going to be posting the 2021 schedule. We have a great lineup of events, so please stay tuned. And again, every single one of our events are posted on demand at TryThisAt.Work website. There's an on-demand tab there. So if you or anyone else ever misses a session, no big deal. You can always go back and watch it on demand. So thank you so much, everyone. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, happy everything. And I hope you all have a great weekend.